Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Inferno. It's Wednesday night. Week 9 is maybe upon us. If COVID lets Thursday night football happen, then Week 9's upon us. If not, Sunday will be here before you know it. But before we get into all that, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Frazier, it's good to see you guys again. Sully, how are we doing tonight, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Bryce, great as always, my friend.
I'm always good. Yes, thanks for asking. Brad?
It's coming up Bryce tonight. I like it. Yeah, I mean, I can't complain. You know, election's over. The world's back to normal, right? Everything's good to go, and we're going to talk football. Right?
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Before we get into all that, thank you guys that showed up last night. We had great conversations, great Q&A, and some start-sit stuff. We're going to try to help you start-sit questions like we've been doing. So throw them in the chat, get them going. We'll hit them. We'll get those all knocked out. Obviously, we always like to preface it by saying it is Wednesday. So you're asking us start-sit questions today. Anything's possible, especially this year. So don't forget to tune in Sunday morning. Typically, Bryce and Rick are doing kind of a pregame stuff, especially for our patrons. So make sure you go to rotoheat.com/Patreon and become a patron. You pay a couple bucks a month, you get all our premium content. You get Bryce and Rick Sunday mornings, hot and heavy. And who doesn't like Bryce and Rick Sunday mornings, hot and heavy? It's exciting times for everybody.
Can't go wrong there.
Plus, you get, all the other great content that comes with it. We got our 2020 rookie stuff coming up soon, so we're working hard, already breaking down a lot of the rookies and getting that route. So thank you guys as always. If you like the video, do all the things you do. With that being said, we'll jump into the news and notes. Mr. Sullivan, take it away.
All right, so I had a bunch of news and notes prepared for tonight, and then boom, the San Francisco 49ers dropped a bomb with some more COVID protocols. So looks like Kendrick Bourne tested positive. Now we have Brandon Ayuk and somebody else. Trent Williams and one other player that I can't remember are all been put onto the COVID-19 IR list. So earlier in the week with the Green Bay Packers, they lost all their running backs. The Niners have lost all their wide receivers. So what are we looking at for Thursday night football? Is there anybody in that game that's left, Bryce, that you would start this week?
Not really on the 49ers side. Obviously, there's a lot on the Packers side. I've been monitoring Aaron Jones' status. Personally, I hope it gets delayed at this point. The 49ers are definitely not going to be well-equipped enough to compete against a team like the Packers. And it gives Aaron Jones a little bit more time to rest, which I'm sure most owners would be very happy for. But on the 49ers side of the ball, absolutely not. But the Packers, the core people for that team, you always got to start. Brad, what do you think?
Poor 49ers fan. Like, Leone and some of the 49ers fans in our chat, I'm sorry, guys. I mean, I know my Lions are a terrible team every year. Your guys had hope going into the season, and injuries and COVID have just destroyed your guys' chances. It's time to just pack it in and hope you get a top 10 pick. I mean, it just isn't your year, and it stinks. For this game, obviously, I agree with you 100%. From the 49ers side, I mean, I definitely think Hasty's probably a guy who's probably going to get a ton of action. But, I mean, the tough thing is Packers now can just signal, just blitz, send the pressure. But their defense is weakened too. They've got injuries they're fighting. So, our Packers have some injuries and some things they're fighting. So, Hasty's a guy that probably will get some love. Jerick McKinnon, if he plays, everything should be rosy for him too. I don't know. They're probably going to be throwing a lot to the running backs, would be my guess. What do you think, Sullivan?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. Obviously, Rodgers, Ed Adams are slam dunk starts. I think Robert Tonyan is a nice little start with the running backs. Kind of downgraded there. We got a lesson on Tyler Ervin last night, which was enjoyable for me, and Dexter Williams. So on the Niners side of the ball, their wide receivers are Trent Taylor, Richie James, Kevin White, who was on the practice squad. And I have to read the last two because I don't know who they are. River Craycraft and Chris Finke are the other two wide receivers on their practice squad. I have a feeling Kyle Juszczyk is going to be a sneaky, not so much a guy I would start in my leagues, but maybe if you want to play DFS tomorrow, as a guy who's probably going to see a bunch of targets coming out of that backfield. Then my regular scheduled news and notes. So we have Antonio Brown making his debut this week in his only game, excuse me, last season with New England, and specifically with Tom Brady. He had 8 targets, 4 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. Does AB have a better debut with Tampa Bay than he did Brad?
No, probably. I don't know. After last night's conversations, I don't know. People seem to be super high on him. I thought there was too many mouths to feed, so I didn't really know where the targets were going to come from. But I mean, I would think the ceiling's probably that. I don't know that I would say he's going to get more than that. They just have too many options. What do you think, Bryce?
I think it's possible for sure. It's hard to ask for someone off that long to come back and put up that amount of points and yards and a touchdown nonetheless. But that offense, the wide receiver position, he probably comes in as the most healthy at this point in the season. It feels like all 3 of their starters are banged up. Scotty Miller was questionable all last week. He looked fine, but Mike Evans looks like he's in pain every single game and every single catch. And Chris Godwin's always has been out in and out every other week. So I definitely could see it happening. It seems like the only people that are consistently healthy in that receiving core is Gronk and now maybe Antonio Brown. Is it true that he moved in with Brady when he signed with the Buccaneers? And did you see he was wearing a TB12 hat in one of his interviews? So I'm all on board on Antonio Brown. I think he's going to be that guy that might put a lot of teams that were kind of competing over the top for the rest of the year. Brad, Brad, you talking Sully?
I'm kind of with Rick on this one. I'm a big believer in AB for the rest of the season. Brady loves this guy. And, there was talk last week that when Brady was shopping his services, it was Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown come with me or I don't come to you. So Arians pushed this off as long as he possibly could. He was letting the NFL deal with it. Now his suspension has been served and here he is. So I don't know if he's going to go for 56 and a touchdown. I think he is going to be targeted excessively, especially early, I have a feeling. I think it affects Mike Evans in the early stages, but not long term. I think this is great for Tampa Bay's offense in general. I don't know how you play defense against 3 legitimate top 12 fantasy wide receivers and a top 12 fantasy tight end and 2 pretty decent running backs in the backfield as well, let alone having Tom Brady a quarterback. So I think he smashes in Tampa. I don't know if he does it in his debut, but this is a guy who didn't really have a preseason last year because of all the weirdness he had going on with his feet and his helmet, and he stepped right onto the field in New England and did what he did. So we shall see. All right, moving on. The Dallas Cowboys are a little bit of a mess. So they don't really know who their quarterback's going to be this week. We know it's not Andy Dalton, as he's been put on COVID IR, and we know it's not Ben DiNucci. So it's either, I think it's Garrett Gilbert,
Cooper Rush,
and Cooper Rush. Awesome. So that offense has fallen apart, understandably so. So with Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott was running back 3. With the Dalton DiNucci combination, he was running back 28. Tony Pollard was running back 54 with Dak, and with the duo, he's bumped up to RB 48. Amari Cooper went from wide receiver 8 to 23. Lamb went from wide receiver 11 to 60. Gallup's gone from wide receiver 33 to 76. And Dalton Schultz, in limited time with Dak because he didn't really do anything in week 1, was tight end 12. And now he's tight end 17. What do we do with our shares of the Dallas Cowboys going forward?
I wish we had the Mad Money thing, the sell. Ben DiNucci was what is he, like the 7th round rookie? You expected him to look out of place, and he did. He didn't look very good. Cooper Rush and Gilbert are at least veterans. They've been around a little bit. They've both been around this type of offensive scheme. I think they're going to come out and produce better than DiNucci. So I would expect these guys to all be better than they were. I mean, the tough thing, so with Amari Cooper, and we talked about this last night, when I looked at his stats from last week, he was targeted like 5 or 6 times, but he got one pass. Like it wasn't good, and I think teams are gonna be able to kind of lock some of these guys down because this offense just doesn't move the same. I think they're going to be better than what what we saw last week with Danucci. I think they could even be better than they were with Dalton. I mean, because Dalton didn't look good either. I mean, he looked rough. So these two guys are at least fresher. Both of them are younger. They both know the offense as well as Dalton. Actually, probably more than Dalton because Cooper Rush has been with the Cowboys on and off for 2 years, I think. And
Yeah.
Garrett Gilbert's been around McCarthy for a while too. So I don't think that this really kills those guys fantasy value wise. I don't think it gets worse than where they're at. I think it'll get a little bit better. But Bryce, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, the biggest hit, obviously, I think is, or it's pretty obvious, is the rookie Lamb, because he was producing way better than people thought, and now he's kind of fallen off the map with the quarterbacks that have taken place of Dak. It's hard. I mean, in redraft, ideally, I think selling would be your safest bet because I don't think those players are ever gonna get to where they were. And hopefully you are in a position where maybe you could sell them and try and keep making a push for the playoffs. And I just think that you're better off trying to get some serviceable players out of those guys. But yeah, the quarterback situation is going to be interesting to watch. It still makes them fun to watch, even if they're a dumpster fire, because you always want to see what new guys can do. I mean, Cooper Rush sounds like almost a fictional character's name, so maybe he'll play lights out. But it's always, I mean, you saw Ben DiNucci didn't look like anything special. You might as well see if you have anything special on your bench. I think there's a lot of teams in the NFL that need to start doing that at this point in the season, where playoff hopes might not be alive. So if you can sell them for the right price in Dynasty, it might be the time to buy. So, but this is a redraft stream, so right now I would try and sell and get as much as you can. Sully?
I don't know. I agree. If I can get anything for them, I'm probably going to sell them. I just don't know if you're going to be able to sell.
Right.
The one guy I would not sell is Ezekiel Elliott. I still think there's something there. He's the key to that whole offense now. It was
right.
It seemed to be that it was him and Dak for the longest time, and then they added Amari Cooper, and he was the missing link, and then that kind of popped the lid off of it. But Zeke needs to be able to move the ball for that team. And if he can move the ball, then he's going to open up the rest of that game for whoever the quarterback is. But he's been brutal. And he's losing. He's not only losing the ball, like he started to fumble snaps. Like I said, Pollard's gone up from 54 to 48, which is big deal. But he's gone up because he's been on the field more and he's getting more snaps. So I don't know what's going on in Dallas. I agree. If you can get what you feel is reasonable value for any of these guys, I would sell them. On the dynasty side of the fence, the only guy I'm really I don't want to move Zeke either, but I'm not giving up on CeeDee Lamb. Better days are ahead. Dak is coming back. This guy's unbelievable. And I still think he holds a little bit of value there. DiNucci seemed to like Michael Gallup for some reason. And who knows? I just think that they're an absolute mess, and I'm really starting to wonder if Mike McCarthy's going to be one and done in Dallas.
Well, and the offensive line has been a huge issue too. I mean, the injuries and guys getting older. I mean, this team really could hit reset in so many different position groups. You could see a whole new offensive line. There's plenty of defensive changes that need to happen. It's rough. It's very rough. And and the tough thing that I notice in redraft leagues that I'm in is trading with teams that are clearly done. They're not going to make a playoff push. There's really not much they can do. What are they in it for? What are they trying to accomplish at that point? I find it hard to trade with those owners because they're checked out. They're like, well, my season's toast. This sucks. I'm done. That's always a struggle. So if you've got a guy that's really in that position, you're going to have to work hard to probably pry players away because they probably just don't care at this point. At least that's what I've found in my many years of doing redrafts.
I agree. That's probably the most frustrating part of a redraft league is the checked out and absentee ownership for sure.
Yep.
All right, one last little bit, or you want to go to the question?
We can hold it, and we might have more than one if you don't have the Lions news on there.
What's the Lions news?
Stafford's on COVID IR.
Oh yeah, that's right. How did I miss that one? crap, we're going to win again this week.
You are going to win again. You're facing Chase Daniels. So if it gets Quinn and Patricia fired, I don't care. Leave them on COVID IR, Raquel Armstead style all year long.
This is the we want our coaches fired bowl. Like, I want Zimmer gone. You want Patricia gone. Spielman can go too.
It's bad.
Ugh, gross.
We do have some questions though. We'll hit it. We'll hit these questions.
Go there.
Yeah,
you want to go there?
Why not? So Wilson Hensley, it's good to have you back, Wilson. We've seen you in the chat the last few weeks. It's really great having you on here. He says, I have Gaskins and Eckler recovering. So obviously Gaskins is out 3 weeks. Eckler is still out. We really don't necessarily have a timetable. But I have Fournette, Swift, CEH, and Edwards, and Breida on my dynasty. Is there a start every week running back on my team until Eckler comes back? So basically, is he saying, which of these guys are my weekly starters with Eckler and Gaskins down? So the options are Fournette, Swift, CEH, and Gus Edwards, and Matt Breida. I think it's got to be Swift and CEH.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards is a backup who gets playing time, but there's plenty of options ahead of him. Fournette is only in when Rojo does something dumb, which happens regularly, but it's hard to trust him right now. And Breida has not looked good in Dolphins land, which we talked about yesterday. Hence why they went and traded for a running back. What do you think, Bryce?
I would say Fournette and CEH. Personally, I think that Fournette gets probably a few more touches than Swift every week. If you look at his stats this last game, they don't look great. But before the last drive of the game, he was actually averaging over 4 yards a carry. And then it got to that point where they were just stacking the box because Tampa Bay was trying to run the clock out, and he was getting 1 yard gain. I think he carried the ball 6 times. Really hurt his stat line. But before that, he was running well. He catches 10 times better than Ronald Jones out of the backfield. Ronald Jones almost drops to his knees. I don't like him very much, so I might sound biased, but he drops to his knees almost every time he catches the ball. I think that Brady likes when Fournette is out there because it gives more of a dual threat out of the backfield. So for now, for the rest of the season at least, I would rather have Fournette and CEH. But your dynasty outlook with CEH and Swift is looking pretty good because Swift is very efficient when Detroit gives him the ball. I just don't know why they don't give it to him more. Anything else to add, Sully?
CEH is one for sure. I think it's Swift over Fournette, and the only reason I think that is because every single time I think that Fournette has shaken Ronald Jones, something happens and Rojo rushes for over 100 yards. So I own a lot of Leonard Fournette. I own 0 of Ronald Jones. I don't want that to happen. So I'm not going to curse myself. And I totally agree. If Swift would just get the touches, the man's got, what did I hear a stat today? Adrian Peterson has had 41 carries in the last X number of weeks, and his longest run is 9 yards. So it's time. Like, it's well beyond time for AP to call it a day and for Detroit to give Swift the football. So, but then there's weird things like Kerryon Johnson catching touchdown passes as well. So Detroit's messy. So, it's CEH and it's either Fournette or Swift. I'm really on the fence between those two.
Yeah, for sure, Wilson. We definitely aren't on the Edwards and Breida side of things. So, and then even once Gaskins and Eckler get back, I still think it's CEH and probably Eckler, or I mean those are kind of, if you're only starting 2 running backs, those are probably your top 2 anyway. So Swift in the future will probably be in your top 2, but not right now.
Agree.
All right, so our boy Lyrical Loop over on YouTube asks, I recently made this trade, so he's looking for us to evaluate his trade. He received Darren Waller, Tyreek Hill, and James Robinson. He gave up Travis Kelce, Chris Carson, and David Johnson. I think he won the trade pretty easily. He got the number 2 tight end, probably the top 1 or 2 receiver, and what is becoming one of the top 5 running backs in fantasy this year. And he gave up old, hurt, and old. So I think I think you got over on that one.
The only slight concern I have, and it's very slight, is I'm wondering what James Robinson looks like in this new Jacksonville offense, where I envision he's looking at some stacked boxes to start off with. But the kid catches the ball as well, and he's been pretty shifty, so hopefully he's going to hang in there. But yeah, Kelsey's a nice piece, and you hate to lose it, but you did well with Waller. You smashed with Hill and Robinson as well. Great job. Bryce?
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing else to add there.
Yeah, the interesting thing on the Jacksonville side is I think Jake Luton is, if they start him over Mike Glennon, which I hope they do. He's the rookie from, I think he's Oklahoma State, I think is where he came from. He's got a big arm. Like if they start the game off by having him just kind of take some big shots down the field just to maybe keep the defense honest, I think they could probably open things up a little better. Like Luton is not a bad big-armed quarterback. He's just not, I mean, obviously he wasn't sexy enough to be drafted before the 5th round, but I think he's better than Mike Glennon, hands down. So I hope they start him, just from the football side of things, because that'll help open up the offense if they push the ball down the field some, and that will make my James Robinson shares valuable still, which I need.
Yeah, and Minshew was a 6th rounder, so stranger things have happened, right?
Very true. So, hey, James Martin. We had James Martin said, hey, guys. All right, so go back to let's jump back to the Lions thing just for a second before you get to your last bit of news. Stafford going on COVID IR. It appears this time this is actually a positive, not a false positive like the first time. So that really does mean a dumpster fire is on its way to Detroit, because Chase Daniels is not efficient. He's not a good quarterback. I don't even know why they paid him the money they paid him. This offense is going to be rough. But I'll turn it over to you guys. Bryce, what do you think without Stafford at the helm? What do you think happens to some of these fantasy shares? Did they lean on the run like Chicago did when Chase Daniels came in until he faced Detroit? Then somehow he looked like a superstar.
Yeah, I would have to almost I feel like I would like to look back at last year because Stafford missed some time last year as well, didn't he?
He did. He missed 8 games.
He didn't play on Thanksgiving, did he?
No, he was out for 8
the last
games.
half of the year.
Yeah.
Right.
Detroit was doing Blow at that point. David Blow.
Yeah. Didn't he win too? Didn't he win on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
That's his only win.
That's what I thought. Yeah, Galladay. I remember Galladay went off that week.
He sure did.
Yeah, I think they have to lean on the run game. Even though Adrian Peterson hasn't had any big runs, he still doesn't look bad back there. Just a good veteran presence to have for these younger guys. Hopefully they just start to open the door for Swift here. They have no reason, like I said, not to. He is extremely efficient with the ball. He does great out of the backfield. So I'm hoping that they lean on that run game, like you mentioned there. Is Galladay playing this upcoming week, or is he done for a while?
He's on IR, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely have to lean on the run game because all they got now is Marvin Jones Jr. in that receiving corps. So doesn't sound like a very fun team to watch this upcoming week, but maybe it opens up the door for Swift to see some more touches. What do you think, Sully?
I think long term you got to lean on the run game, but you have an absolute gift of an opponent this week in terms of the passing game. The Minnesota Vikings are horrific against the pass. I think teams are giving up about a touchdown a game to the wide receiver position. The Vikings are giving up 2 a game to the wide receiver. Marvin Jones Jr. probably is in a good spot. Who's the rookie that played early in the season
Cephas.
when Galladay was up? I think Cephas has a little bit of fantasy relevance now as long as Galladay is out. I don't think I would be too crazy about the passing game in Detroit for many games. TJ Hawkinson, and I like Jones, and I like Cephas this week especially. Going forward, hopefully it's more Swift and maybe even carry on. Let's get the shock paddles out on him and see what we can do.
That's the funny thing is carry on. He hasn't gotten a lot of action actually touching the ball, but when he has, he's not looked terrible. I'm like, why is Adrian Peterson taking touches away from carry on? Carry on's been in there to
Peterson
block.
Even there?
I don't know. Darrell Bevel, I guess. I don't know. I mean, Bevel loves him, so. They really should be using a Swift Johnson backfield, and just AP is the mentor that's encouraging the young guys from the sidelines. But
frustrating.
Yeah, it is. All right, so James Martin over on YouTube, Kareem Hunt and Austin Eckler for Elliott. So would you do that trade, Bryce?
I think Sully's lagging.
About to say, I see
Sorry.
Sully fine. Oh, now Bryce is back. I was going to say, Bryce had frozen for a second. He was like, it looked like he was like,
Maybe I was lagging.
it's that Ohio internet.
Were you asking me?
So James Martin wants to know Kareem Hunt and Austin Eckler for Ezekiel Elliott. Are you doing that trade?
I would feel like I would need more context on your team. In a vacuum, no, because and I guess again, this just depends, because if you're trying to make an attempt to make the playoffs, I think Zeke is better than Hunt for the foreseeable future. I believe Chubb is coming back pretty soon, correct? Isn't that like in the next week or two? And Austin Eckler, I don't know when he comes back, week 10, week 12. So there's a lot of unknown with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, if this is a dynasty question, no. But if it's a redraft league and you're trying to make a push to make the playoffs or even compete in the playoffs, I think you do it. Sully?
I think if I'm getting Elliott in this deal, I'm doing it all day long, because Chubb's coming back presumably in week 10 with the Browns on bye this week. I'm really starting to think Austin Eckler's not coming back at all this season. So I'm going to give up a split backfield running back and a guy who's not going to play this season for a running back I still believe in being a top 5 guy at worst. So if I'm getting Zeke, I'm making this trade. If I'm giving up those, or if I'm getting the package, I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. James Martin says he's 5-3, and his running backs are James Robinson and Hunt.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously Eckler. So he's really trying to upgrade Hunt to Zeke. So Hunt and
Then I
Eckler,
100% I would do that.
Yeah. If the owner will accept it, I would too.
Yep.
Okay, so Sean wants to know thoughts on Aaron Jones the rest of the season, Mr. Sullivan.
Aaron Jones is a phenomenal running back, an incredible fantasy asset. There's a lot of things I get wrong on a daily basis. Nothing I've gotten more wrong is Aaron Jones this year. So if he can get back on the field, look, the Green Bay Packers refuse to get Aaron Rodgers any more weapons. So it's Aaron Jones, it's Devontae Adams, and it's Aaron Rodgers. And that triangle of talent is deadly. Like, Jones is legit. He's got a 45-point game on his resume this season. He did it a couple of times last season. He's got an amazing ceiling and a pretty safe floor as long as he can play. That's the only thing that holds him up a little bit, is he has a little bit of injury history in his background, but I've never been one to buy in too much of that. I'm a believer that Aaron Jones is a top probably 6 running back despite his injuries when it's all said and done at the end of the season. Bryce, what do you say, brother?
Yeah, it's music to my ears to hear you say that, Sully.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, if you've listened to any of the past podcasts or streams, I'm a big Aaron Jones guy. The people always say that Rodgers needs more talent around him, but he's got a heck of a lot compared to a lot of other teams in the NFL. Aaron Jones is a top 5 back from statistically and from what he looks like on the field. Devontae Adams is arguably one of the best wide receivers in the league right now. And he's got some serviceable tight ends. Both of the tight ends right now, Tonyan and Sternberger, make the catches when he throws it to them. So right now, Aaron Rodgers is set up for success. And when Aaron Jones is on the field, he's a beast. And they have a great backup running back that comes in to make sure Aaron Jones isn't exhausted in the fourth quarter. So the rest of the season, I think you're in good shape. If you are the owner, I think the best thing you can hope for right now is for this game to get delayed, because if it gets delayed to Sunday, more than likely, or even for some reason they decide to move it back to Friday or Saturday, he's more than likely going to play, because right now he's a 50-50, and if they move it back a couple of days, I think he's guaranteed to play, and it can't hurt to get a little bit extra rest for that calf.
Mm-hmm.
Brad?
Yep, absolutely. All right, so Chow asks, my starters are Tom Brady, Stephon Diggs, Michael Thomas, Justin Jackson, Chase Edmond, Hunter Henry, Devonta Freeman, Kyami Fairburn, and Washington's defense. Hoping MT plays this week. and Freeman. Is this a good starting lineup?
Who's he say? Hoping who? At CMC?
MT and Devonta Freeman. So he's
Oh.
hoping both those guys come back from injury this week. Is this a suitable starting lineup this week? Chase Edmonds, Justin Jackson, Michael Thomas, Diggs, Tom Brady, Hunter Henry, Freeman, Fairburn, and Washington's defense. Well, Washington's defense is like top 5 or 10 right now. So yeah, that's a good defense to play.
Sweet matchup too.
Yeah.
Freeman, I think is done. I think that's the Wayne Gallman show now.
Yeah, Freeman's not looked great.
Yeah, no, Wayne Gallman looks a lot better. And I said it last week when he played, he looked way more explosive than any of the other running backs there. Deion Lewis is still a very serviceable third down back. He's still making great catches, as you just saw. I would look somewhere the waiver wire for another running back. See if Wayne Gallman's out there, because I think that's a definite better start than Freeman, even if he is healthy.
Plus, Alfred Morris even showed up to play.
Yeah, I forgot.
The ghost of Alfred Morris. Yeah, that was pretty good. He looked pretty decent, actually.
He didn't look terrible. He didn't look great.
Ryan Grant's coming back, Packers fans. So it's a good, Tom Brady's top 10 in redraft right now. Diggs is Diggs. He gets his touches. If Thomas comes back healthy, he'll get his. Justin Jackson clearly has the number one role with the Chargers. Chase Edmonds appears to be the most dynamic running back in Arizona, so he'll get action. Hunter Henry's, a top tight end. Freeman's really the only position in my mind either that I would look to improve on. Fairbairn should get you a fair amount of action as well. Houston's offense can move. They're just not going to get any wins this year. But I don't know. Anything you want to add to that, Sully?
Not really, other than I still think Freeman's the man in New York just because Dave Gettleman's crazy and he gave him $3 million. So if he's healthy, he's probably going to see the lion's share of the carries until they realize that he's no good. The only thing I would do with that roster potentially, and it's a bit iffy, is maybe you dangle Michael Thomas. And you might be able to turn him into a running back upgrade on free and a wide receiver that you can start. In fact, package Freeman with Michael Thomas and see what you might get. But you'll win more than you'll lose with that lineup. Chase Edmonds, in my opinion, on my podcast last week, I called him the greatest handcuff since D'Angelo Williams. I think he's going to go nuts in that offense. So he'll cover up some of your wounds. If Michael Thomas can come back and be anything close to what he was a year ago, you'll be fine. Brady's top 5. Justin Jackson's doing all right. Washington's defense could score 20 points against the Giants this week. So you're good this week. I'd go with that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Nick King says I need a flex wide receiver for week 9. Flex for week 9, not wide receiver. Flex for week 9. His 3 options are DJ Shark. We know Sully's already picking him. Zach Moss, who's still trying to get there, and J.K. Dobbins. Bryce, who is your flex of those 3?
Is Mark Ingram out?
Most likely.
One J.K. Dobbins. Yep, he looked the best with the ball last week. I thought it was going to be more of the Gus Bus show, and I was very wrong. I love J.K. Dobbins' talent, but he looks very comfortable and looked pretty good. Sully?
Yeah, it's Dobbins for me rather easily here. If it's not Dobbins, it is DJ Shark, and then it's Zach Moss, even though I know. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. But it's J.K. Dobbins by a long, long shot above the other 2 for me. How about you, Brett?
Go ahead, Bryce.
I was going to say anybody can run against the Patriots. Just saying.
But now they're giving up touchdowns too. They never used to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fumbling game winning drives and everything. Go ahead, Brad.
I feel like Zach Moss has kind of taken the lead position with Devin Singletary. He's getting still touches, but I don't know. Like I like J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is my favorite of these 3, but I think in week 9 I would probably do Moss, Dobbins, DJ Chark. Like I think that's kind of my order because I think Zach Moss has the touchdown upside. J.K. Dobbins is still getting a little bit of vulture from Gus the Bus. That when you have that kind of up in the air, like they're using all their running backs, which drives me nuts about a team. Like you need to have a focal point and then a change of pace guy. And your change of pace guy should clearly not be getting the same amount of action as your focal point, where, Gus Edwards is getting a fair amount of work, more than I thought he'd get, So I'd lean at Zach Moss in my mind, but I'm not upset with J.K. Dobbins either. Either one of those, I think both will give you a suitable flex output. DJ Shark, I don't think is going to give you suitable anything with a new quarterback. And because he's only had 4 good games in his entire career, as Mr. Sullivan likes to point out, the 4-game wonder.
Interesting. I'm just looking at the matchups because, as you mentioned, Moss, I was kind of questioning it, but now I look at it, and Buffalo plays Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens get the Colts, so
Colts are stingy.
You might be onto something there. It's not as wide a margin for me as it was initially, but I'm still sticking with JK.
Yep. All right, so Chow over on YouTube says, I have Herbert, Zach Moss, and Noah. Where's your first question? Oh, there it is. Is my starting lineup good? He has Herbert, Zach Moss, and Noah Fant on the bench. So that was your team. And if you can't move Devonta Freeman and Michael Thompson to deal, I would probably be starting Zach Moss over Devonta Freeman or Noah Fant over Devonta Freeman. Like
1,000%.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm guessing it's not a super flex, but Herbert would be in there.
I put Fant over both of them.
Would you start Fant over Hunter Henry?
No. Probably not yet, but things are moving in that direction. If Drew Lock keeps playing well, would you?
Hunter's been.
I think I would. When Drew Lock plays, I feel like Fant's numbers are almost always good, except I think 1 week. So I think I would go. I'd go Noah Fant.
Denver plays Atlanta.
Yeah, there you go.
Done.
Like playing the Cowboys.
All right. James Martin says, "Okay, awesome. He proposed the trade. I'll accept it." Okay, so he did get Zeke He got Zeke, so that's good. Yadir over on YouTube says, "Will Trent Taylor play good because, well, all the other receivers are out?" He's going to get some action. We know that much.
Probably not.
Green Bay's secondary is not bad. Like, they've got some good shutdown corners, and if Trent Taylor's literally on the number 1 corner, he may get targeted, but he probably ain't going to get much out of it. For me, I'm not starting any 49ers pass catchers except tight ends. Like, I'd be okay throwing in Reed or Dwelly, whoever that tight end is, because they'll probably get some action, and they're going to be covered by subpar linebackers, so they should get some fair amount of action and be able to catch the ball. Running backs, I would be okay starting if you need it, because everybody runs well against Green Bay, it seems like. But I'm not playing any 49ers receivers. Mostly because I don't know many of them.
I don't really disagree. I don't know who 2 of them are. And one is Kevin White, who you can't really rely on. And then you have Taylor and Richie James. So I think that's pretty tight. The one thing I'll say about Trent Taylor is he went through a lot of rehab and injury stuff with back injuries. And Shanahan stuck with him throughout, right? So Kyle Shanahan seems like that loyal guy. He stuck with McKinnon. He stuck with Trent Taylor. So Taylor's going to get every opportunity in the world in this one. Well, he's going to be in the slot. I can't imagine his ADOT as much of anything. Like, he could be 4 for 60. Like, that's his ceiling to me in this one. I think they run all day.
Would you? Okay, so his follow-up question is, would you play Breida over him? So it looks like it's kind of a flex type thing.
I think I would. I wouldn't like it, but I would. But Breida was questionable this week in practice too.
And they traded for DeAndre Washington. Like, I would seriously consider just going and getting either Lynn Bowden or DeAndre Washington if you're really desperate, and just saying what the heck and give one of them a try, because they got rid of Isaiah Ford, and I'm assuming Bowden is the guy that they did that for. And they traded for DeAndre Washington, and I'm assuming it's because Jordan Howard stinks in this offense, and so does Breida. But
the only thing with Washington is he's not eligible this week because he's got that 6-day COVID protocol to. So he's a week 10 option, but not a week 9 option. True. Bryce, what do you think of Trent Taylor this week?
He looks.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. His ceiling is extremely low, so I would definitely start Matt Breida over him.
There you go. So that's it. Good luck. Hopefully something works for you. All right. So what was another piece of news you wanted to talk about, Mr. Sullivan?
Well, it's kind of timely. We talked about it a little bit already. So Zach Moss saw 50% of the touches last week for the Bills. He had a even split with Devin Singletary, but he had all the red zone work. So what do we make of Devin Singletary's value going forward? Is he a buy? Is he a sell? Or you just hold on?
I think if you own Singletary, like I have some Singletary shares, I'm not moving him because he's got a place in their offense. I just don't think. I think he's probably more like a low end RB2, high end RB3 at kind of a ceiling, because Zach Moss. I was not a Zach Moss truther. Everybody, Leone was the big Zach Moss guy on the team, and I would bag on him for it because Moss wasn't super enthusiastic and exciting in my mind. But Moss looks solid in this offense. I've actually gone out and gotten him in a few places, and I traded for him in 2 leagues before last weekend and started him, and it worked out well for me. I won both of them. So I was wrong on Zach Moss. He does seem dynamic, and they seem to like him. And he's the big thumper they need near the goal line. So I mean, he's going to get that red zone work because he's a bear to bring down. Bryce, what do you think about that split there in Buffalo?
Yeah, Devin Singletary is a guy I stayed away from. I didn't really think he was that impressive last year when he got his opportunity. The success of Zach Moss also just proves that speed is overrated in the NFL. Zach Moss had not very exciting combine numbers. What did he run? His 40 in 5 seconds or something terrible. It might not be that
about an hour.
But again, he was slow.
He's
slow.
almost done.
Right. He was slow. But, they don't take into account field vision and just how hard he is to bring down. He runs very hard. And we'll say the way to score on the Patriots defense is running the ball. And Buffalo ran with ease against us pretty much the whole game. When Zach Moss was in, he looks like the better back, and I think he's definitely the guy for the future. So if I'm the Singletary owner, I'm going to sell for now because I think his value might be at its peak at this point. Zoe?
Yeah, I agree. He's running back 27 on the season. He's been single-digit producer in half of his games this season, and that includes a bunch where Moss wasn't active. So Zach Moss looks like the better guy. He's definitely the goal line guy. The big knock for me on Singletary is he never scores touchdowns. Like I think he scored like 3 last year, and he was going to be the pass-catching guy, but Moss is getting as many targets as he is. So I think he's at the edge of the cliff about to fall over the wrong side of it. So I will get out of Devin Singletary if I can.
Yeah, and he ran a 4.65 40.
He said he was hurt, though.
Well, yeah, after running that, I'd be hurt, too.
I would say, too.
Apparently he had a bad hammy.
John Ross pulled his in the middle of his 40, so.
Because he's going about 400 miles an hour in his, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was disappointed to see he didn't get traded either.
Yeah,
disappointing trade deadline overall, I'd say.
Isaiah Ford owners can rejoice because now he's wide receiver 1 with Edelman on IR and Harry hurt.
Hey, we have N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, but isn't he hurt still?
How dare you? He had concussion. He'll be back this week, I believe.
Hey, but you got to look on the bright side. The Patriots traded for a useless wide receiver last year and this year, but at least this year they gave up a 7th-round pick instead of a 2nd-round pick. So things are looking up for New England.
They sold out, and you hear Belichick.
Man, he was using some super, super weak excuses too. Wow, with our cap situation the way it is, it just is what it is.
Well, they had like $7 in cap space before all those guys opted out, so he's not really wrong.
He's not. Mitchell over on YouTube says Tyler Ervin or Dexter Williams if Aaron Jones is out. Dexter Williams. Tyler Ervin they've got on the roster. He's only on the active roster because he's the special teams guy. So I'm probably going Dexter Williams.
He gets a couple sweeps every game.
I just have to text Leone to find out who he is here. Just 1 sec.
That was so awesome.
I think that was great. I loved it.
Did Jamal test positive? Yeah. I know he was getting looked at.
He's one of those guilt by association guys, right?
Yeah,
he's contact tracing.
So he's
him and AJ.
Poor AJ Dillon.
Who tested positive? Was it Dillon?
AJ Dillon tested positive, and I thought they would test Williams and see if he came back positive, and then if he didn't, he could play. But I might have that.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I haven't seen any updates this evening when I checked on that to see if anything's come back. So you really need to keep an eye on it, and that it probably is.
This game is set up for to be postponed.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Not yet.
According to Tom Pelissero, who texted or tweeted out tonight, games scheduled as planned. So
Interesting.
It's
the NFL's got some really interesting COVID pieces to it, right? Like, the whole world's got the 14-day quarantine period, but in the NFL, you can test positive on a Tuesday and play on a Sunday somehow. But then you have 6-day waiting period if you join a new organization. There's a lot of weird things that's inside that protocol. Clearly, the NFL is motivated to get these games in, and they're going to do whatever they can to make that happen. So I think Thursday night is a go, and could be very interesting.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, all the different sports. I mean, the entire world is trying to figure out how to kind of maneuver this thing in such a way that that they appear as though they're being as safe as they can when they're still trying to make money and keep their business running. So I mean, I get it that they're trying to kind of blur the lines and do some of those things. Like I don't hate the idea. Could have been a good game if all the injuries and things didn't already happen. I would have flexed this game out of here weeks ago, is because it just isn't going to be a fun watch. Like, do I really want to see Aaron Rodgers thump the 49ers for 3 hours? Not really. You know,
Bit of a primetime skid, hey? Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Bucks, and now this one. So these feature games have been a bit poopy lately.
At least the Monday night one's exciting.
Yeah. Sunday night is Bucks Saints. That should be good.
That's a good one, yeah. Then you got Patriots Jets Monday. What a fun one.
man, that's
Jets first win of the season.
yeah.
You probably have one or two fantasy players relevant in that entire game. So
I got to start Sam Darnold this week in
Michael P. Ryan. I would start him all day. Even Frank
Crowder,
Warren.
I think Crowder coming back this week, so he's usually, I think he averaged like 26 points a week when he plays.
Yeah, he only plays 2 weeks every 5. That's the only problem.
All right, so
Denzel Mims.
yeah, maybe. So what do you think about trading Amari Cooper and Naheem Hines for Jamison Crowder and Jerick McKinnon?
I don't like that very much.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, Crowder normally, like, if he's healthy, he still gets action. McKinnon, like, I will never trust him. I know he's been fine this year. Naheem Hines.
He hasn't, though.
What's that?
He hasn't, though. He was good in the first 4 weeks, and he's gone straight off a cliff
yeah.
since. He was a top 12 running back in the first 4 weeks, and he's averaged like 3.5 points a game in the last 4 weeks. Like, he just hasn't played.
Yeah, they stopped giving him the ball. Too.
Yeah, for sure. So I wouldn't do that trade, Mitchell. I would stay off that one. Amari Cooper may not be getting targeted a whole lot right now, but things will bounce back. There are better days ahead. Hopefully, you can weather the storm.
McKinnon's last 4 weeks, 2.5 points, 4.8, 1, and he had a big week last week, 13.9. So he's averaging 11 over the I think they played 7 or 8 games. But Shanahan came out and talked about his tired legs and resting him. I think he's risky, and Crowder is very risky. And Cooper, you're selling at the bottom of the barrel on him. I would hold off on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Trey wants to know, full PPR pick 2. Deontay Johnson, DeAndre Swift, Brandon Cooks, or Devin Singletary. Deontay Johnson's hurt right now, isn't he? He's out this week?
Always.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's out.
He's always hurt. True story.
He's always hurt.
I'm probably going Swift and Cooks. We just got done talking about how much we're not super excited about Devin Singletary. So I'd probably go Swift and Cooks. What do you think, Sully?
Yeah, I agree. I think hopefully Swift gets the touches, and Cooks against the Jags I like a lot. Definitely.
Yeah.
Bryce?
If Deontay Johnson plays, it's him and Cooks. If not, it's Swift and Cooks. Deontay Johnson plays the Cowboys.
That's a great point. I reserve the right to change my answer.
Hence why you should tune in Sunday morning if you're a Patreon and find out exactly who these two to start. Right now, we would start Swift and Cooks, but we reserve the right to change that. if Johnson's healthy, then they will feast on a struggling Cowboys defense. This is a fun one. Question's off topic, but how many games do you need to lose to be out of the playoffs? That really depends on when your league starts the playoffs. So I know some leagues start as early as like week 13, 12 or 13.
Probably
Week
not
14
13,
is
14
pretty
usually.
standard for redraft.
Yeah, 14.
Pretty standard for redraft. 14.
14. Okay, so
There's bye weeks in week 13 this year, so hopefully there's no playoffs in week 13.
Yeah.
Brutal. So if you're week 14 and you're a pretty typical 12-team league, I guess because the standard schedule in a 12-team league, I would guess you would have to be. All right, hold on. I have to look that one up.
6 and 7 usually is like you got like a 30% chance of making it, and that's if the rest of the league's pretty even. Usually, if you're 5 and 8, you're not making it. So 8 for sure, maybe 7.
Yeah, so if 6 teams are making your playoffs, you're starting in week 14. If 4 teams are making your playoffs, you're probably starting in week 15. Yeah, I don't know. I think 7 losses is probably your max. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm that the John C. Riley gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna say if you hit 7, you're probably toast.
Play it out.
In my mind, I feel like it's 6, but I could be. 7 sounds better. I'll go with 7 because then at least there's hope. For those of you that are losing. What's that?
He's probably got 5 losses. He's probably got 5 losses and is wondering how many more he can take.
Yeah, and it brings up a better question. So, like, at what point do you just say, "All right, I got to go all in. I got to make a crazy move"? And if you've lost like 3 or 4 games, like you need to start making some drastic changes. Because hopefully your league isn't as locked down as something like the Fishbowl where you can't make trades and you're just hoping the waiver wire gives you something.
Oh no, bad news there.
My season's been done since like the first Kittle injury, not the second, but the first one. Most leagues, like after about 3 or 4 losses, I'm really starting to go, okay, what big move can I make to get a deal done so I can save my season? Like, if you've got to trade your number one, your first round pick, second round pick, if he's still healthy, to get a couple pieces to really give you something, I would do it. Like, you got to do something,
Yeah, I think if you're in that typical sort of 6 teams make the playoffs and you're outside of that 6, I always sort of zone in on that 6th place team and what do I got to do to catch them if I'm a game or 2 behind them. But then it's time to play it like every week is your last. You need to sell your soul to win this week. Do it and worry about next week. Just keep going.
I don't know that I'd sell.
Maybe not that.
I don't know that I'd sell my soul for a football game, but I would sell my best player to win a football game. Yeah, I mean, and that's a tough one. I mean, you have to when it's redraft, like you got to go for it. I mean, there is no tomorrow. Next year, you draft a new team and you start over. So, I don't want my season to be over in week 10, 11. So I'm going to go for it. Do whatever I can. So there you go, Chow. Hopefully we've helped you there. We're going to wrap it up there. Things have gone well. We've had some good conversations, great questions. If you guys have start-sit questions, Sunday morning is the perfect time to get them in. If you have them throughout the week, join our Discord chats. We've got Redraft there. Facebook community, very, very active Facebook community, 1,000 strong and growing. It's tremendous. Just
1,700.
Is it at 1,700? I knew it was getting close to the 2,000 mark. We've got a ton of folks here on YouTube. Keep dropping the comments here on YouTube on our videos because Rick and I and some of the team will respond to you. I have the chat up normally throughout the day so I can respond to folks as they get on there. So get on there, get your questions in, and we'll get you all helped out. Always rotoheat.com. It will get you the main hub of all of our information, start sits and all that good stuff. So for Rob and Bryce, we thank you guys.